All right, so the next thing that we're gonna look at is how well Britton can control his hip flexion range of motion without having any movement in his lumbar spine. So we'll have him just balance on the rig or something so we take out that demand. And then we're just gonna have him show us how much hip flexion he can have without his lumbar spine moving. So go ahead and bring that knee up. Ideally, we see this past 90 degrees without any change, any rotation of that hip back down low. Okay, so Britton does pretty well. The athlete that you're gonna wanna do this assessment for is somebody that has the range of motion in hip flexion, in your faber, in your ankle range of motion, but they still have a funky squat. So we'll go through this and we'll see if they don't have the core stability to be able to express that range of motion without collapsing anywhere. So the first correction that we're gonna do is we're gonna have Britton grab 2 PVC pipes. We're gonna step into a 90-90 lunge. With these PVC pipes, we're gonna drive down into the pipes. It's gonna activate the lats. We're gonna keep the core tight. So go ahead and get a little bit more neutral here. Good, brace, drive into the poles, and then we're gonna lift this knee up, take the foot off the ground, and then we're gonna hold that for a 10 count. Go ahead and relax. So what we're looking for here is in this correction, we don't wanna see any collapse or any tuck in that lumbar spine like we were looking for in the assessment just a second ago. So the next correction that we'll look at, go ahead and relax these, is our dead bug. So go ahead and lie on the ground. We're gonna go hips and knees to 90-90, arms straight up in the air. What we'll have Britton do is we're gonna have him drive his low back into the ground, try to think about tucking his ribs into his abdomen and pick his head up off the ground just a little bit. Your deconditioned athlete, you're gonna see him shaking and having a really hard time just holding this posture. Once we have an athlete that's a little bit more competent in this range, we're gonna have him start adding some upper and lower extremity movement. Okay, as he's extending arm and leg, we still want to make sure that there's no movement through his midsection. Ribs stay tucked, back's driving into the ground. If you can go ahead and relax. If we're having our athletes do this by themselves, sometimes it's good to have them put like a pen or something underneath the low back so they can get a little bit of cueing to see that they're actually driving that low back into the ground. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a glute bridge. We're going to have Britton put a band around his knees. Okay, arms by your sides. Feet about hip width apart. We're gonna have him brace his core just like he did in the dead bug. And then after he braces, we're gonna have him lift his hips up. Where we wanna look for a straight line between shoulder and hip. Then we're gonna have him drive his knees out into this band, and that's gonna give us just a little bit more of that glute med activation. And just have him hold this for 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off for about 5 minutes. And those are gonna be your pretty basic core stability moves to be able to make sure that we're competent in that.